Hi everyone, and welcome to the pre-program webinar for U.S. participants for this year's WiSci Girls STEAM Camp. Thank you all for joining us. This recording will be made available to you after the webinar is finished. So we're going to start by going ahead and introducing the people that were on the WiSci STEAM Camp program with World Learning. So you should be quite familiar now with Taylor Carvalho right here. She is the program associate on this project and helps really with everything, but is your main point of contact during the lead up to the program. Then you have myself, Lauren Edgar. I'm one of two program officers that work on WiSci. The other is Amira Nelson, who is here. We will both be on the, or we will all actually be on the ground with you in Namibia. And lastly, we have Carrie Graves, who is the Director of Youth Programs here at World Learning. The other two important people that you'll hear from once you arrive in Namibia at WiSci are our two colleagues from Girl Up, which is part of the United Nations Foundation, and their names are Bailey Laushin and Rocio Ortega. There are 10 counselors in total. We have Eleni and Galila from Ethiopia, June, Hilya, Justine, and Aislene from Namibia, Lisa from Swaziland, Betty from Kenya, and your two U.S. counselors are Lindsay and Raven. Each counselor will be responsible of a cohort of 10 girls. While you can always talk to Lindsay and Raven, who are your U.S. counselors, they may not be your cohort leader. We mix up all of the cohorts so that you have time to get to know as many campers as possible and that you can spend some time with girls from other countries. Lindsay and Raven will be traveling home with you from Namibia. So I just want to do a quick overview of the things that we're going to discuss during this webinar. We'll talk a little bit about what will happen at camp, travel, what you should pack, where you'll be staying during camp, how communication will look on the ground, a little bit about money, and lastly about health. As a note, this picture is actually from the airplane landing in Windhoek, so this is a little snapshot of some of the scenery that you'll be seeing in Namibia.
Now, you all received a participant guidebook last week, and that actually goes into much more of an overview of what your daily schedule will look like. But just to go over the overall camp structure, all U.S. participants will be departing Washington, D.C. for Windhoek on June 16th, and then they will be departing Namibia to go back to the U.S. on June 29th. Once you arrive at camp, you will be taking classes and workshops led by volunteer trainers from Intel, Google, NASA, and our university host partner, Namibia University of Science and Technology. There will also be a leadership and girls empowerment curriculum led by your counselors, and that is also facilitated by United Nations Girl Up initiative. And then later in the evening, you will be participating in a number of group activities, the main activity being culture nights, which you'll hear more about once you arrive to camp. But to give you a brief overview, culture nights is an opportunity for each country to create and perform a presentation for their fellow campers to share more about their country and its cultures. So you all will be having a specific night when you'll be able to give a performance about various aspects of U.S. culture that you would like to share. In the past, participants have done things like share dances, sing songs, show videos, and so those are all things that you might consider doing for culture night. You will have some time at camp to work together to develop that. There will be one off-campus excursion that will take place on Friday, June 22nd. And all together as a camp, we will all be traveling to a small conservation organization about an hour outside of Windhoek. And that will be an excellent opportunity for you all to get to learn more about the country of Namibia, its various cultures, and its various flora and fauna, as well as local efforts to preserve all of those things. There will be an additional component outside of classes and outside of kind of the fun group activities called mentor hours, and these are optional. However, we really highly encourage you to participate in them because it will be your opportunity to get to know all of our volunteer trainers better and learn from various professionals in the STEAM fields about what it's really like to be in their job, what they've studied, what they like about their job, what they don't like, and all of these various questions that you may want to pick their brains on as you consider various careers in the STEAM fields. Finally, at the end of camp, campers will come together in teams to design a final project. You will be given more information about the different requirements for your teams and the timeline for developing your final project. However, just wanted to let you know that that will be coming up at the end of camp.
So you've already been provided a lot of information about travel in your camp guidebook, but we do want to highlight some of the more important aspects. So first, and most importantly, is what should you bring with you when you travel? The first thing is your passport, which may seem obvious, but we have definitely all been there where you remember last minute that your passport is sitting on your dresser as opposed to in your purse. So, write it as many places as you need to. Just make sure that you bring your passport with you. The other thing that you'll need is your signed parental consent form. So this was the form that you signed at the beginning of camp, you and your parents signed, that basically states that your parents have given you permission to travel abroad on this program. You can either bring the original with you or you can print out the scanned copy that you sent to us. It's unlikely that anyone will ask you to show it, but it's always good to have it with you just in case an airport official asks you if you are allowed to be traveling without your parents. Please also bring a printed copy of your e-tickets. While you can get an official boarding pass at check-in from the check-in agents, it's always good to bring a printed copy of your e-ticket that tells you what time you'd be boarding, how long the flight is, where your connection is, and I think for me it always gives me a bit of peace of mind to know exactly what will be happening on my flight. Lastly, your chaperone, who for the U.S. girls will be Taylor. She'll provide a copy of your visa letter to enter Namibia. It'll be a very easy process. She will receive a one-page letter from Namibia for each of you that basically says that you have been approved to travel to Namibia as a student. She will give you that to hand to immigration and customs officials in Namibia along with your passport. They'll read the letter saying you've been approved, and they'll put a stamp in your passport. It'll be a very easy and straightforward process, and Taylor will be with you the whole time. We know that many of you are traveling for the very first time, so we wanted to bring a couple of things to mind for what you should expect as you go on your first flight. So there will be a variety of security checks, which are just to make sure that everybody that's entering the airport is following procedures and that it's keeping everyone around them safe. So we have outlined some of the standard TSA procedures in your guidebook, and we would recommend that you look over all of that and just make sure that you're following them. You'll have no issue with security as long as you're kind and courteous and respond to any questions that are asked to you, and you follow the guidelines and regulations. You'll go through customs and immigration 2 different times. So the first will be when you land in Namibia, so that will be the Namibian Customs and Immigration, and the second will be when you are returning to the U.S., so that will be to enter back into the United States. You'll go through U.S. Customs and Immigration. Like I said, both processes will be very straightforward. You'll just go up and present your documents, ask any questions they will ask you, and they'll stamp your passport, and you'll go straight on through. In Namibia, or on the way to Namibia, you'll be with Taylor, and on the way back, you'll be with Lindsay and Raven, your 2 U.S. counselors. We do recommend that you check in for your flight online ahead of time. You can check in for your flights 24 hours in advance of the flight time. We will be sending an email with detailed flight information and how to do all of this for both your domestic and your international flight sometime next week. Your luggage allowance for domestic flights are, domestic and your international, will be up to 50 pounds. We really want to push that you should not bring a bag that is already at the 50-pound mark, because you do want to leave room for any souvenirs you'll buy and for a ton of really cool camp memorabilia that the World Learning team and our other partners will be providing you. So make sure that you've got lots of space and some weight left in your bag for that stuff. You also have to be able to carry your own luggage. So if you pick it up and you think there's no way that you could lift it up or off of a bus or upstairs to your room, that means your bag is too heavy. No one is going to carry your bag for you, because it's important that you keep your own materials with you, so make sure you can carry it yourself. We will be reimbursing you for one bag weighing up to 50 pounds for your domestic flights. So when you go to check in for your flight to DC, you'll pay the baggage fee and keep the receipt. Then when you get to DC, you can give Taylor the receipt and she'll give you that amount of money in cash. Before you leave Namibia, we will also give you cash in advance for you to pay for your domestic bag on the way home, and then you'll have to scan a copy of that receipt once you've purchased the flight. We will likely have your counselors have that money, and they can help you in DC on your domestic flights. Your international flights already include the baggage, so you will not need to worry about the cost for that. Important documents is really, it's a great idea to make multiple copies of them in case you lose one. I personally like to make 3 or 4 copies of my passport and put one in each of my bags, so my purse, my carry-on, and my checked luggage. I would do the same with your travel abroad consent form and your travel itinerary. Lastly, if you have any prescription medication that you're bringing, make sure to bring a copy of that prescription in case an airport official asks you for it. So how will you get to Namibia? It's very far away when you look at it on the map, and you do have quite a long flight ahead of you. So campers from outside of the Washington, D.C. area will fly to Washington, D.C. and be met by Taylor and our colleague Deanna Wertheimer at the Washington Dulles International Airport on June 15th. You'll then travel via the hotel shuttle bus to the Hyatt Place Dulles Airport and stay overnight on June 15th. DC area campers can go directly to the hotel. We will tell you what time you should be there by in an email next week. All 20 of the U.S. students will be staying overnight with Taylor at the Hyatt Place and having a little pizza dinner and getting to know one another, and then you'll travel via the hotel shuttle bright and early in the morning on the 16th to get on to your 11 a.m. flight to Namibia. You'll be traveling through Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, and when you get there, you'll actually be greeted by the Ethiopian and the Kenyan participants who are all going to be on your flight to Namibia. Upon arriving in Windhoek, you'll meet the counselors, the rest of the World Learning staff, and Girl Up staff who will be waiting to welcome you. Please make sure in these next few weeks that you check your email frequently, because you'll be receiving a lot of important updates and detailed instructions, especially with regards to your flight.
So there is a much more detailed packing checklist that is available in your guidebook, so I would recommend that you review that carefully as you're packing, but we did want to highlight a few items. Please make sure to bring your own towel. There will not be towels available for you at the camp, so make sure to bring a towel so that you can take showers at camp. The bathrooms and showers that are available are shared dormitory showers, so separate stalls, but they're all in the same area. They will be used by all of the campers and counselors that are staying at camp. So you may want to bring flip-flops or other waterproof sandals that you have just to use in the shower so that you feel more comfortable going in and out of that public shower area. Additionally, you should make sure to bring your own toiletries, so things like soap, shampoo, if you use contact solution, other items like lotion and toothpaste. Please make sure to bring enough of those for your use during the camp. Additionally, I went into some details about culture night earlier on in the presentation. There might be some items that you might wish to bring from home as part of the culture night presentation. You may wish to coordinate with your fellow campers coming from the U.S. In order to decide who is going to bring what. Again, you do not need to bring these items, but it may be something that you want to consider as part of your presentation. A few items that I can give examples from last year of counselors or U.S. campers bringing are things like small American flags or American flag T-shirts. A few campers chose to bring American candy to share during the presentation. So those are just a few example items. Again, you do not need to bring those items, but just to give examples. Additionally, any important documents, such as your passport, any valuables, or any medications, essentially anything that you would be very sad to lose, or anything that's valuable or important to you should go in your carry-on luggage in order to remain with you physically during the entire flight. Finally, it is going to be winter in Namibia during the time that camp is taking place. So it may not necessarily be winter that you are used to if you are from the East Coast, but it will be quite a bit colder than it is in the U.S. during this time. So between 40 degrees Fahrenheit and 70 degrees Fahrenheit, and the temperature will change, getting colder during the nights and in the early mornings, and a bit warmer during the day when the sun is out. So we do recommend that you keep that in mind as you're packing. Our recommendation would be that you bring a lot of different layers that you can wear all together in order to be warm during the mornings and at night, and then be able to take off some of those layers during the day as it gets warmer. Just a note that you do not need to bring bed sheets or blankets for your bed during camp. Those will be provided by the dormitory. However, you do need to make sure to bring your own pillowcase. So a pillow will be provided, pardon me, but not a pillowcase. We know you're probably very curious about where you're going to be staying for the 13 days in Namibia. So we wanted to show a little picture of an example of one of the dorm rooms. Everyone, all of the campers and counselors will be staying in their own dormitory that will be located on campus. You will have a roommate. You can see the two beds there in the photo. That dormitory is secure. It has its own wall and will have its own security guards. And it's a short walk from the main campus where you'll be having classes and a lot of your group activities. Again, there will be shared bathroom and shower facilities. And just a note that there will be no Wi-Fi available in the dormitories, although you'll have plenty of opportunity to access Wi-Fi when you're on the main area of camp. Additionally, we wanted to go into some details about what communications you can expect from us before camp, and then what communication back home is going to look like during the camp. So as I mentioned, we sent out a camper guidebook to everyone last week. Please do let us know as soon as possible at WiSciCamp@worldlearning.org if you did not receive that guidebook. It involves a lot of really important information and helpful tips about everything from travel to what you can expect at camp. There will be a mandatory pre-departure orientation for all U.S. participants. That will take place on June 6th. We've posted that on the Facebook group, but we'll also send out a reminder by email with more detailed instructions about how to access that webinar. Again, that is mandatory for participants. However, we ask that parents do not attend that session. Make sure to check your email regularly because that is going to be the main way that we communicate with you. So we'll be sending your itinerary to your email. We'll be sending the camp yearbook to your email. Make sure you check your email regularly. For example, we're going to be sending your itineraries next week. Now, during camp, communication will look a little bit different, of course, because all of our staff will be there with you on the ground, but you might be wondering how to communicate with your parents or family members and friends back home. Every country will have its own assigned specific time for calling home, specific day and time, and we will set up stations for you to be able to call home. We would definitely encourage you to use that opportunity to speak with your parents at that time. We'll be providing a confirmation of what day will be assigned to the U.S. a little bit closer to camp. And then, of course, you're welcome to be in contact with people back home by Skype or email. Computer labs will be made available for that. I do want to stress that there will not be a lot of unstructured, unscheduled free time during the camp. If there's going to be a lot of activities, a lot of classes and group activities, so it will be pretty limited. You will be pretty limited in terms of your time to spend on Skype, and we would definitely encourage you to remain as engaged as possible in the activities that are going on. Finally, for the parents out there, we do want to make sure that you know that we are setting up an emergency on-call system for parents and guardians to be able to reach their children. We will, again, provide the details and instructions in writing so that you have them for easy reference. But just to give you an idea of the process, there will be a U.S. phone number that you will be able to call 24/7 and be able to reach a human being. So if there are emergencies or you need to hear from your child, you'll be able to reach us any time of day.
So let's talk a little bit about how much money you need to bring. The short answer is very little to none. So actually all of your meals, accommodations, in-country transit, and air travel are paid for by the program. Campers will have a very limited opportunity to go off campus, but you may want a small amount of money to purchase souvenirs. There will not be an ATM or bank on campus at NUS, so any foreign exchange should be completed at the Windhoek Airport or in the U.S. We would recommend that you actually exchange money at the Dulles Airport before departing for Namibia, and Taylor can help you do that either when you get there on the 15th or on the 16th while you're doing your check-in process. Just for your reference, the country of Namibia accepts both the Namibian dollar, which is the top picture there, and the South African rand, which is the bottom picture. Many of the places that you'll be interested in purchasing souvenirs from will likely not accept credit or debit cards, so we would recommend if there's any amount of souvenirs you wish to purchase that you bring that in local currency.
Finally, a few short notes about health and safety. We do want to make sure that you know that all U.S. campers will receive international health and accident coverage through their participation in the WiSci program. The international health and accident coverage is provided by Nationwide Insurance, and we'll provide the detailed healthcare policy to you prior to your departure so that you have it on hand and you understand exactly what is covered by that policy. In addition, all U.S. campers will be enrolled in services provided by International SOS, which is a global organization which assists travelers with health care and identifying appropriate medical care in the country where they're traveling to. So International SOS actually, they can provide health updates, they provide alerts, and they work hand in hand with Nationwide Insurance to make sure that the insurance is covering everything that it's supposed to and that you receive appropriate medical care when you are traveling. There are additional health resources available on campus, and in Windhoek. An on-campus nurse will be available during working hours in case you have any minor ailments, like a stomach ache or headaches, things like that, cuts and scrapes. And then outside of working hours or for more serious medical attention, You will also be able to have access to a private hospital if that's appropriate. I do want to emphasize, if you feel ill at any time, whether you're traveling or you are at the camp, to make sure you tell your counselor, your chaperone, and any of the staff on the ground. Even if you start to feel a little bit better later, we do always want to know when you're not feeling well so we can help you do your best. Just a note that we will be able to dispense kind of generic painkiller for small ailments like headaches and things like that, but if there are preferred medications that you know that you like to take and that work well with you when you're not feeling well, for example, things like Benadryl or Imodium, you know that you want to have access to, you can certainly feel free to bring that with you in your luggage. So before you go, we do have a couple tips. One is to access International SOS, and again, we'll be providing information on how to do that as well as the policy shortly. They provide constantly updated health guidelines for travel to every country, so Namibia is on there, and we think it would be helpful for you to review that. In addition, we encourage you to review the CDC recommended vaccinations. They are updated periodically, but at this time, I believe that the CDC recommended vaccinations for hepatitis A, for Namibia, pardon me, is hepatitis A and typhoid. We do recommend that you speak with a doctor regarding any vaccinations that they recommend because everybody's health history and prior vaccination is different. And make sure that you refill any needed prescription medications before you depart for Washington, D.C. Just a note that please make sure that if you do have prescription medications that you need to take, that you ensure that you bring enough medication for all 13 days of camp as well as your travel days, and students will be responsible for taking their own prescription medications.
If you have previously had a typhoid vaccination, please check how long it is valid for. It is, off the top of my head, 3 years for the oral or for the shot typhoid vaccination and 5 years for the oral. So just make sure if you've had it that you actually are still valid and you don't need to do a typhoid vaccination renewal. So that is all the things that we wanted to cover today in our webinar. Thank you all so much for joining us. If you have any questions, you can either ask them on the Facebook group or you can always email us at wiscicamp@worldlearning.org. Thank you so much.